So have you ever been in a car and hear a song coming through your speakers and instantly remember all the words? Do memories of another time or place, and this is usually the case, events, flood your brain? That happens to me all the time. If I'm on my way to work or even walking down the street and a song hits my ears and bam, I'm somewhere else. I remember the good times and the bad times. I've even had it happen to me when I'm just walking around not really looking for music at all. That happens a lot in grocery stores. Not really sure why. But that's what this channel is about. My music memories. Things that flood into my head while hearing that song. Copperhead Road by Steve Earle. To say that I've been a lover of country music would be wrong. Well, to be quite honest, it would be an outright lie. Now, I'm not the zealous type you see screaming at the sky on Fox News, but the genre really hasn't wandered into my life's path. Now, I know that Copperhead Road isn't exactly country, but when I think of what genre I should put the song into, it's always country. When people ask me to play a country song, it's always Copperhead Road. So to me, well, it's country. I think it was in the 90s that Garth Brooks became really popular. I know this not because I'm a Garthy purist. You see, I knew he was popular because he was talked about in pop culture. Occasionally, shows would throw in a few jokes at Mr. Brooks's expense. Now, I can't really remember or even find proof online, but it's got to be true, right? I mean, he was too big. Somebody had to make fun of him at some point. Country music and I struck a deal. I wouldn't talk shit about country music, and it would stay out of my ear holes. I think I had an ex who had a real crush on John Michael Montgomery and forced me to go home with bleeding eardrums. So, like her, I tried to avoid it whenever I could. I think that my forced oblivion of everything country music is largely due to the fact that country music really changed in the 90s. When I was young, listening to country music meant enjoying people like Dolly Parton and Hank Williams. And Dolly's music wasn't what attracted the attention of the kids that I knew when I was younger. Whenever I heard country music, it was usually behind a fence. Sometimes I would hear Alan Jackson or someone like him drift over the fence from a party. They would always have some horrible smelling beer and parents acting really stupid. I remember the smell of the first beer I ever had. I sneaked into one such party to see how ridiculous adults could be. Then I noticed a case of empties under the picnic table. I searched the case for a few minutes, trading looks between the party and scoping out my first sip of alcohol. Actually, I'm not sure it was my first sip of alcohol. You see, my grandparents grew grapes and made wine in their backyard in a small town down south. My family always loved going to their house. My parents got to relax and have someone else keep me from annoying them, and I simply got to enjoy being somewhere new. My eyes would grow with curiosity and wonder as I looked at the history and beauty of their house. From the huge tiger throw rug on the floor to the big puzzles that my Nana would be working on the basement table. There was always something going on to keep me interested. My grandfather worked years and years at a big plant. I seem to remember he was pretty important. He eventually retired right around the time that computers were beginning to populate corporate Canada. When he retired, I guess he and my Nana decided to go grapes, both red and white, in my mom's family home. He erected a series of wooden fence things. I was too young to know what they were actually called, and now I just can't think of a good way to describe it for a search engine to give me the official term of the grapevine holders. But anyway, they stood much taller than my childlike frame. I remember watering them with my Nana. It was a rare, peaceful moment and kind of an eventful childhood. In the basement, there were several barrels, actual wood ones, and there were spouts coming out of them. I remember my grandfather telling me not to tell my mom as he poured me a Dixie cup of white wine. I don't remember throwing up or anything. He then told me that wine should be respected, and I always took that statement to heart. Even nowadays, if I'm going to drink, to excess, if I'm going to go get drunk, then it's never going to be on a bottle of wine, at least on purpose. Drunkenness for me is usually preceded by a bottle of Jack Daniels. But if I'm going to act civilized and proper at a function or something, it'll be with wine. I never even knew how they got the wine from the grapes back then. All I knew is that it seemed to take a really long time, I remember trying to convince my grandfather to pour me a little, and then he once told me that it just wasn't ready yet. They also made a koi pond in their backyard with real koi fish. I would lie at the edge of the pond and watch the fish happily swim back and forth. It was magical. I find myself trying to work out the logistics of how he built it. I mean, it had to be much more than simply digging a hole. I mean, this is Canada. Minus 40-degree winters are common. And yes, that's also minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit to my worldly audience. Because when I get my dream home, I really want a koi pond to look at the fishes and to honor the hardest working man I ever knew. Okay, back to the beer. The party was the first time I'd actually had beer. My drunken babysitter, when I was 6, tried to convince me to have a sip when the Leafs won the big game. He was an odd duck. He would make me stand up at the national anthem when it was playing before Hockey Night in Canada. He wasn't the guy that my mom was shacking up or anything. I think it was just a family in our neighborhood. But I refused and would run out of the dark living room. So months later, there I was, ducking under a dirty picnic table, taking a deep swig of beer. There wasn't much left in the bottle, about a half a child's mouthful. So I drank the whole thing and immediately dropped the bottle on the trampled grass and tried to spit out the beer. I'd swallowed some and it caused my stomach to churn. I stood up, banging my head on the table, and a wave of drunken laughter following me as I stumbled, holding my head, spitting out the beer leftovers towards the safety of my own backyard. My backyard had always made me feel better. I think that home, no matter where it is, just does that. It makes you feel better, safe from the outside world. My body actually does seem to heal when I walk in the front door. I've had dangerously low blood sugars on the walk home from work, but the second I get home, the symptoms would disappear. I can't explain it. I guess it's just the magic of home. It's funny, as I got older, I didn't immediately run screaming out of the room when I was offered a beer. Maybe that's something else that changes when you get older. You grow a tolerance for that strange drink. I enjoy beer from time to time in my adult form, and I've tried a wide variety of kinds and types. I've learned to enjoy the warmth of a Canadian ice and learned the hard way that Guinness really should have stayed in Ireland, because that is one beefy beer. Lately, I've started to exploring craft beers. I honestly believe that craft beers were created as a competition with other breweries or folks who just wanted to be a beer builder. Because the things they put in beer nowadays are just weird. Blueberries and bananas? What the hell? Well, to be quite honest, I haven't had the blueberry beer, just the banana one, and they lied. It didn't taste like bananas at all. It tasted like a broken promise. The one thing that craft beers really do get right is the art. They put so much creativity into their cans, Molson should be ashamed. From real painted art printed on a can all the way around to a cartoon octopus, a ton of unique vision goes into that first look on the beer cans. They even attempted to include stories on the cans. I'm not sure why. Maybe they are simply taste testing the product too much. But the octopus beer has a small story about how he, yes, the octopus is a he, is the jerk of the office. And given the chance, he would fight you. I'm not sure why I would want to drink a beer with a mascot that wants to beat the crap out of me, but then I guess I may not know the whole story. Oh, and the beers created for bands or celebrities? Yes, those exist. Wayne Gretzky has a few different beers. Musical groups are jumping heavily into the strange beer market as well. Iron Maiden has one, so does Rush, and Metallica tried to recapture the fame they once had with Enter Night Pilsner. Hell, even the Tragically Hip have one. Now, I haven't been able to muster up the bravery to try any of these, but that Iron Maiden one looks fantastic. And I recently saw a picture of a gift package with the beer and other cool Iron Maiden-y stuff, so that may empower me to try it out. There is one beer that I really like the branding behind. It was Red Dog Beer. The logo was fantastic, simple and bold at the same time. Even though I've never actually drank the beer, I did have a white shirt with their logo on it when I was a teenager. Red Dog apparently died, as it doesn't seem to be sold anymore. It's a real shame, as I, for some reason, used to see myself drinking a can or a bottle while wearing the logo t-shirt. That seemed to look cool in my head. It probably wouldn't hold up to the hype, though. I find the things that I wanted to do when I was young now that I'm actually old enough to be able to do them, never live up to the hype. Like the dream of owning all the comic book movies ever made. It's a pretty crappy time now. Not that the movies are bad, but it's just they take up so much damn room. I think of dreams of my youth are great because of where they exist, in my mind, not taking up half my living room. Thanks for listening to a story that fell out of my head. Do you drink beer? Have you ever had a really cool looking beer? If you have, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to get more ideas on what beers to try next. But please, no bananas beers. Until next week, please like, comment, and subscribe.